All praises to the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bahashem Raha Kwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, laboring in his truth in all sincerity. Second Esdras 9 verses 1 and 2. He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the Highest will begin to visit the world which he made. I got two articles. I'm going to read the first one here. Doomsday clock will update on Tuesday. That is tomorrow, Tuesday the 27th of 2026. And experts have some scary predictions about it. This is an article in the New York Post, published today at about 12:49 p.m. by someone by the name of Ben Cost. So I'm not going to read the entire article, just a couple of key points that I came across. They have some apocalyptic forecasts. Are the end times at hand? Scientists are preparing to update the doomsday clock on Tuesday, sparking speculation it will move ominously forward amid fears of nuclear war, the rise of AI, and existential threats. I'll scroll down a little bit here, give you a brief history of it. Created in 1947 when the fear of nuclear war was at an all-time high, the doomsday clock serves as a metaphor for how close humanity is to self-annihilation. The Ragnarok clock was created by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist, a non-profit formed 2 years earlier by Albert Einstein, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and University of Chicago scientists who helped develop the first atomic weapons in the Manhattan Project. So each year Doomsday is updated based on how close we are to a human-made catastrophe. Represented by midnight, the closer the hands get to striking 12, the closer we are to the end. So I'll pretty much stop there. Basically just stating that sometime tomorrow, roughly at about 10 a.m., if I'm correct, this is going to happen tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. They are going to update the clock, so that could mean that it may move forward. It may move backwards, but I truly doubt it's going to move backwards, or it may just remain the same. They do this pretty much every year. So tomorrow, the 27th, at approximately 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, they are going to update the clock. As of right now, it's 89 seconds from striking 12, which is the closest we've ever been to self-destruction, as it says right there in that particular article. This person here says, in my opinion, the clock could be moved forward by at least 1 second. Alicia Sanders Zachary, head of policy at the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, told the Daily Mail. I'll skim a little bit further. Oh, yeah, right here. Sanders Zachary believes that the Armageddon alarm could jump based on the global arsenal of 12,000 nuclear weapons and rising tensions between nuclear powers, the skirmishes and escalating threats of full-scale war between India and Pakistan over the summer appear to accentuate this risk. While the risk of nuclear use has been an existential threat for 80 years, it has increased in the last year due to skyrocketing investments in nuclear arms, increasing threatening nuclear rhetoric and actions, Sanders declared. The multilateral world order is now totally collapsed, and we are already in a multipolar reality where all countries are having to pick a side between authoritarian strongmen, the scientist said. Baird said the risk of nuclear war wasn't imminent due to congenial relationships between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, but would become an issue in the long run since the two leaders are unlikely to remain friends forever. Nuclear war isn't the only potential catastrophe on the doomsday radar. Baird also warned about the increasing omnipresence of AI, which he deemed an existential risk driver on par with nuclear weapons. In the new book, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies, Why Superhuman AI Would Kill Us All, computer scientist Eleazar Yudkowsky and Nate Soares warned that the human race would be annihilated by synthetic viruses and other means if we don't hit the kill switch. If any company or group anywhere on the planet builds an artificial superintelligence using anything remotely like the current techniques based on anything remotely like the present understanding of AI, then everyone, everywhere on Earth will die. The AI gurus who work at Berkeley's Machine Intelligence Research Institute warned in the intro to the None Too Subtle tome. And I have one more here that I'm going to read. Might just read the first paragraph or two out of this one. This is from wionnews.com. That is WIO news.com. www.wionews.com. Is humanity running out of time? World holds its breath as Doomsday Clock is updated. This was published on January 26, 2026 this year, a couple of hours ago at 14:25, which is 2:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Story highlights: Doomsday Clock update. Will the threat of nuclear war and the fast development of artificial intelligence cause the clock to move forward? Are humans nearer to self-destruction? We will know this on January 27th. So the Doomsday Clock will be updated on January 27th, revealing whether humanity has moved closer to its end. The event will be live streamed by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, that's BAS, at 3 p.m. GMT, 8:30 p.m. IST. The body is responsible for deciding the clock. The body is responsible for deciding the time on the clock that is slowly ticking towards humanity's annihilation. And once again, I'm pretty sure that's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where this is going to be live streamed. So that would be tomorrow morning, Tuesday the 27th, 10 a.m., roughly 10 a.m. You can catch the actual updating of the Doomsday Clock. The Doomsday Clock was initially meant to track the risk of nuclear war between the Soviet Union and America. However, today the world is at threat from man-made things like climate change and artificial intelligence, making the Doomsday Clock relevant. The Daily Mail reported, quoting experts, that the clock is expected to move closer to midnight on January 27th. This means the world will be one more step closer to the end. So I'll stop right there. And with that being said, with each passing day, we're that much closer to the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem and Hawashai being established forever. But of course, this current kingdom and rulership has to be brought down first. So we're right here at the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble, which is Jeremiah 30:7, Daniel 12:1, along with the MOTB, Revelation 13:16 through 18. We are right here that much closer to the mark, the RFID micro C-HIP being mandated, being made mandatory. And also, we're right here on the brink of the third woe, as these articles have gone into regarding the nuclear weapons, and which is a key reason as to why this clock, their Doomsday Clock, is going to move one step closer to, or 1 second closer, I should say, to midnight, quite possibly tomorrow. So we're right here on the brink of that third woe, which is pursuant to Revelation 11:14. The second woe was past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And this third woe is going to be the end. Just doing a quick little research here, and it wasn't nothing too in depth that I was looking for, but I did find what I was looking for actually. So I asked the Google AI overview as of January 2026, how many nukes do each country possess? As of January 2026, 9 countries are estimated to possess a combined total of over 12,300 nuclear warheads, with Russia and the United States holding nearly 90% of the global inventory. While the other number of nuclear weapons has declined since the Cold War, the number of warheads in operational military stockpiles is increasing, with several nations modernizing their arsenals. Here are the estimated nuclear weapon inventories by country as of early 2026. Russia has anywhere between 5,400 to 5,500 nuclear weapons. The U.S. has anywhere between 5,044 to 5,177. So Russia leads the charge. Russia leads the pack in terms of total number of nuclear weapons. China has between 5 and 600, France 290, United Kingdom 225, India 172 to 180, Pakistan 170, Israel 90. Estimated undeclared. The reason why that's undeclared is I'm quite certain Israel has what's known as a nuclear opacity. I think it's a nuclear opacity agreement or decree or something to that effect, where they neither confirm nor disclose. They don't confirm or deny. They don't really disclose how many nuclear weapons they have. So they could have 90. They may only have 20. They may have 500. So it's never really truly known how many nukes Israel has. North Korea has estimated 50. They probably have much more that they're not disclosing. But key trends of January 2026, the nuclear dichotomy: Russia and the US maintain large, actively managed stockpiles with roughly 1,700 plus strategic warheads deployed by each. China is significantly expanding its arsenal, while other nuclear armed states, including India and Pakistan, are also increasing their stockpiles. Treaty expiration: the New START treaty limiting U.S. and Russia strategic deployed warheads is set to expire February, creating uncertainty. I believe that particular treaty there, if I understand it correctly, it was to try to limit or place restrictions on the development of new nukes, but for each country. But this is expiring in a couple of weeks there, February 2026. So this is why it's stating that it's creating uncertainty, and why this particular doomsday clock is probably about to move up a second or two here. But it's not just nukes, that's nukes are just the end game. So, we're already breathing unclean air. We're eating lab grown food and meats and proteins that's already injected with all types of chemicals. The water is tainted and polluted. Plus there's a host of other things, so we couldn't make it here anyway, which is why this place has to fall. It has to go down. We can read that in Matthew 24 and 22. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. In the NLT, it says, in fact, unless that time of calamity is shortened, not a single person will survive, but it will be shortened for God's sake. Salakia, for the sake of God's chosen ones. I'll read that again. In fact, unless that time of calamity is shortened, not a single person will survive, but it will be shortened for the sake of God's chosen ones. So, we're looking at a time here where, the world is in complete chaos. And once again, Babylon is right here, center stage of it all, and so with the Most High's chosen people here, we do understand that these days are speeding up, and this is the reason why the days are being shortened. Like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, not even thinking about nukes, not even thinking about, the third woe, Not even thinking of Jacob's trouble, any of that right now. It's just the very air that we're breathing. It's toxic. The water that we're drinking or showering in, it's toxic. It's not good for our skin. It's not good when gets into your eyes. It's just completely bad for you. So between the food that we're eating, the water that we're drinking and showering in, the air that we're breathing, and except those days should be shortened. There should be no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So this place is finished. We don't really need a doomsday clock to tell us that either. You know, we can measure the times through prophecy, by remaining diligent. You can clearly see what season we're in as it pertains to prophecy and just how close we are to seeing this kingdom fall. So we're really not in a time to be debating doctrines. There's people out here who are attempting to change the doctrine, which shows how unstable they are. This is not the time to be doing that. We're too close to the end. So, they'll try to disguise it as, knowledge is being increased. Anytime they change the doctrine nowadays, they always got to preface it with, oh, well, this particular scripture right here in Daniel says knowledge will increase. And it's like, okay, you're changing the doctrine again, and you're going to throw that same scripture out there. It's just a justification of you being unstable, and that's all it is. But like I said, we're too close to the end for this. And if you're trying to rebrand yourself now and change parts of the doctrine, then you must feel there's a whole lot of time left in this current world. We're damn near out of here. And some people are still unsure of or just flat out don't know one of the most important prophecies, which is right at our doorstep, and that is the RFID micro C-HIP, which can be found prophesied in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 18. So I'm not going to make this long. Just wanted to touch on the Doomsday clock being updated on Tuesday, January 27th. I believe it's going to be around 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Eastern Standard Time. So, like I said earlier, we don't need an actual doomsday clock to measure the times that we're in, but it just goes to show you that even these heathen nations, they can feel it. They can sense that their rulership is coming to an end. So with that being said, I'll leave it off with, we'll just scroll a few verses down. Matthew 24, verses 36 and 37. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. I pray this has been edifying and reaches the ears it's supposed to reach. Shalom.